Okay, one-step equations involving multiplication and division. Again, same questions as before. Is it an equation? Does it have an equal sign? Which variable is the side on? Or which side is the variable on? Is the variable by itself? Why is the variable not by itself? And how do we get the variable by itself? Or in other words, what's the operation? So first example. It is an equation. It's got an equal sign. The variable is on the left-hand side. So we've got to determine how to get the variable by itself. Again, when you have a number next to a variable, like 3x, this means 3 times x. So the opposite of multiplication is division. So I want to divide both sides by 3. Now 3 divided by 3 is just 1, so we just put x because we don't need to put the 1 in front. Then again, remember your rules for multiplication and division. So signs are different, so when I divide it's going to be a negative. 21 divided by 3 is 7. Now example 2, it's an equation. The variable is on the left-hand side. It's not by itself because it has basically a fraction bar over in 6. This just means x divided by 6. So the opposite of dividing both sides by 6 is multiplying both sides by 6. When I do that, this is like 6 over 6, which is 1. So I have x. 3 times 6 is 18. Example 3, is it an equation? Yes, there's the equal sign. Which side is the variable on? Well, the variable is on the left-hand side. It's not by itself because of the negative 5. So again, this means negative 5 times x. So the opposite of times is divide. So I divide both sides by a negative 5. So negative 5 over negative 5 is positive 1 again. So I got x equals 30 divided by negative 5 is negative 6. And that's because, again, a positive divided by a negative is a negative. 30 divided by 5 is 6. Now, example 4, negative x divided by 3 equals negative 9. So, is an equation? Yes. Which side the variable is on? Is the left-hand side? Is it by itself? Well, no. One reason it's not by itself is because of the 3 on the bottom. Now, when you have a negative sign, you can think of this as negative 1x over 3. If you want to get rid of a fraction, you multiply both sides by the reciprocal. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 3 over negative 1. I just flip it. Now when you do that on the left-hand side, everything's going to cancel out to 1, because if you think about this, 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. Negative 1 times 3 is negative 3. So that cancels to a positive 1x. Now on the right hand side, if you need to think about this as negative 9 over 1, negative 9 over 1 times 3 over negative 1, when we multiply fractions, we multiply across, straight across. So negative 9 times 3 is negative 27. 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. So then we do our division rules, and negative divided by a negative is a positive, and 27 divided by 1 is 27. So example 5, solve 3/4 x equals 6. Again, it's an equation, it's got an equal sign. The variable is on the left-hand side, but it's not by itself because 3/4 times x equals 6. Again, if I want to get rid of a fraction, I multiply both sides by the reciprocal. So again, get it to refocus here. Okay, so then 4 over 3 and 3 over 4 would cancel down to 1x. Again, if you need to think about this as 6 over 1, you can. So I multiply straight across. 6 times 4 is 24, 1 times 3 is 3, and then you need to divide that to get 8. Example 6, negative 2/3 times x equals 10. Again, if I want to get rid of a fraction, I flip it. So I multiply both sides by negative 3 over 2. Now, I can put the negative sign with the top even though I'm flipping the fraction, because again, as long as I have one negative sign there, it means the same thing. So again, everything cancels on the left-hand side, so I get x equals, again, think about the 10 over 1. 10 times negative 3 is negative 30. 1 times 2 is 2. Negative divided by a positive is a negative, and 30 divided by 2 is 15. And again, I forgot to mark variables on the left-hand side. So that's another reason I had to get rid of the negative 2/3.